Hey y'all, it's Brutal Dan.
It's Banana Chan. Welcome to the Spooky Asian Club.
Ooh. Spooky Asian Club is your new favorite horror podcast where we slice into the intersections of Asian stories, horror movies, pop culture, and more from our creepy little perspectives.
And in this episode, we're talking about the 2003 Japanese film One Missed Call and its 2008 English adaptation. But before we get into that, let's introduce our guest for this episode.
Hey Kappa.
Hi.
Hi. Why don't you tell us who you are and what spooked you recently?
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Hello. My name is Kappa. Christian is okay too. I go by any and all pronouns. Really, Kappa or Christian is fine. I am on the internet as the Kappa Chris. Wherever you can find social media handles and stuff. That's probably the easiest way. And I do a lot of TTRPG stuff. I've kind of relaxed a little bit on that, but I do writing and do performance for actual play, for and other performances and other mediums. I recently have started trying to do more community building around TCGs, so trading card games and whatnot. And I don't know, I'm just kind of around. I bop around the internet and try to be just a little bit of positive, a source of positivity to tickle the funny bone on the internet because we need more of that with everything going on.
So, what spooked you recently?
So I moved recently. I moved back. It's March as we're recording this. I moved to a new apartment with my partner back in the end of January. So I've been around this place for about 6 weeks now. We're fully moved in. We have started putting up furniture, like furniture art, really personalize it, making the house a home. But since we've been here, there are some unexplained things happening, but I'm pretty good at living in a place. Like I can fix leaks, I can like I can I'm pretty handy. So when something happens, like there's a creak in a door or like there's a weird knocking in your washing machine, I'm able to get in there, take it apart, find out what's wrong, and then rectify it to fix it, make sure it's not happening again. There are four things going on in this house that I have investigated and cannot explain. there, there is a weird knocking that I there's a weird knocking, and it's three just gentle taps in the kitchen, and I can't figure out the source for it.
Can you replicate that tap
Yeah, give
on this
me.
podcast?
Yeah. So it's like hold on. Did that pick up?
Yeah.
Kind
It's
of. Can
yeah,
you do it again?
so yeah, it's just three very soft, and it will repeat maybe two, maybe three times whenever I hear it. And I've tried to like again, I'm sometimes I hear it and I rush into my kitchen to be like, okay, where is it coming from? And I can't source it because it goes into the wall, and but it shouldn't be something that I can hear through the wall. I'll tap on the wall and stuff, but nothing nothing really I can't feel any vibration from the wall that it I think it's coming out of. And then when I leave to go do whatever I was doing, like laundry or something, I'll hear it again. And it's not a particularly windy day. There's no like trees that can be hitting the outside the connecting exterior wall. Yeah, it's kind of spooky, scary, but uh because if there's something knocking, if there's something in the air vents, I'm pretty confident I can get in there, but it's not near any HVAC, it's not near
Weird.
anything. So and yeah, like I've gone outside to look at like what if there's like a dude in my wall just tapping, but there's no room. There's no room for that. The wall goes to the outside. There's no so I'm fully just unexplainable, kind of spooky, scary, but I think I have a good relationship with ghosts. I'm
Hmm.
respectful.
Okay.
I don't antagonize them. Sometimes I don't know. I really don't know. It's very like do you have any theories?
Yeah, Danny had a ghost story before, but your
Yeah, I had
ghost
a
was,
poltergeist.
You got a
yeah.
poltergeist?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a one-time thing and it was never replicated. To catch you up, Kappa,
Okay.
I was on the internet at a very young age, well, early tweens, with
Early
my
tweens.
cousin who was also very young.
What a
We were,
dangerous time to be on the internet.
yeah, and we were all by ourselves. A CD holder comes crashing across the way, and we were the only ones home.
Oh,
And we were in like chat rooms, just like trying to make friends,
yeah.
like Neopets, just on the forums and stuff. So looking back now, I'm like, well, what if that ghost was trying to stop us from going into a specific chat or something?
Oh, interesting. So you're viewing this as like a friendly sort of protective experience, preventing you to get
Yeah.
on like Omegle or something.
I do think it's interesting that you hear it multiple times.
Yes, yes. It's slowed down. It's not as often anymore. And I don't know. My initial theory was it's the wind making something move on the outside that's just affecting. But when I go like when I try and determine, I've started like mentally logging these instances, and weather's different every time. Not windy, rainy, sunny.
Do you have a radiator?
No, not in that location. And this is the next thing I'll talk about. I think weird about this spot. This is like you, Danny. This only happened once and has never been replicated before, but it's still something unexplained. When we first moved in, we have a like one of those water heaters and radiator that's like type situation. So I walk in, and it's also next to some electrical stuff. So I walk in just to make sure, like, okay, um, the we're not exceeding any power. I'm looking at the breaker box and everything, and then I step in something wet. If you know me, I hate wet socks, and so it made my socks very wet.
Ew.
And then I look down, so I look down. It's a puddle of water, but there's no water source. I check the water heater for leaks. I check, above the ceiling to see if there's any drippage coming down. Look for anywhere where water might be. But this room is arid and dry. There's no place like there. It's not the spot where the puddle was. There was no cracks in the floor for it to come up from below. There was no trail for the water to come from. I am Yeah, I'm thoroughly confused as to where this water came from because we had been moving in, and it was only me and my partner. No one was in that room except for me, um, the day before. And the other stuff is kind of like more minor compared to these two things. Thing number three is a gentle draft or breeze. When I was sitting in the living room, not near any windows, not near any vents or ventilation or anything. The heater was off, no fan or AC was going, just a gentle draft that caught my attention as I was watching a movie. Gentle, not I didn't feel anything sinister or cold or anything about it because usually when this happens, you get a weird feeling, but it was just like oh. The other thing is in our backyard there we have a plastic table set out just for when we want to have stuff to lay down and everything. And then one day I heard a crash outside. I couldn't figure out what the crash was. This table is plastic, there's no glass or anything. My initial thought was someone might have thrown something into our backyard because there's a street right there. It sounded like three or four bottles hitting concrete at the same time and shattering. But when I went to go investigate, there was nothing there. There was the plastic table was in place. There was no thud or damage to it or anything, and no debris. Now I'm thinking, now that I'm looking back, maybe there was someone passing by that did drop some bottles, but on the other side of the fence from where my backyard is.
I have two theories. Okay, so theory number one. I used to live in Jersey City and we lived on the top floor and we had squirrels digging their way through the roof into literally our bedroom.
Oh my
And
god.
so when they were digging in through the ceiling, we had told the landlord, hey, like, we have squirrels, we think, or
Hmm,
raccoons
hmm.
or whatever kind of rodent it was, it just kept, you could hear it. There was like scratching in the roof.
Hmm.
But we never saw them until one day it had burrowed a hole that was, you know, just big enough that
Yeah.
it poked its head through and it just like looked at us and it was just like, what's going on? Why are you living here? So that's my first theory that it could
Okay.
be squirrels.
Okay.
It could be squirrels making that tapping noise. It could be like,
They
running
brought water.
around.
They peed in
They
the tear.
peed there. They
Yeah.
peed there.
It wasn't water on my foot. It was squirrel pee.
Yeah, it was squirrel pee that you
I
stepped
love
in.
that so much.
And the breeze was from a hole that they had created, and
And the
it maybe
sound might
like,
be interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it might
Mm.
be a squirrel causing all four of these things. That's the
I
So
would.
first.
that's more terrifying than a ghost because it's a financial burden now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm renting. That's not my problem to bear.
The second
Okay.
theory is that you live in a weird time pocket. And so, in this time pocket, you're experiencing various different periods of time all at once.
I love that theory because that is my theory for why ghosts exist.
We were talking about that
Yeah.
because we were watching Presence. Well, spoiler, there's time stuff that
Yes.
happens. It could be time stuff.
Yeah, that's my big theory for why the supernatural phenomena have been observed and recorded.
If ghosts exist, do animals have ghosts? And if so, what if it's a ghost squirrel?
Oh,
But this ghost squirrel, because time doesn't function the same, this
Hmm.
is like the ancestor of a squirrel, so it's much larger.
Hmm.
So rather than scratching, it's knocking, and rather than a small puddle, it's peeing a lot.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I like this confluence of the two ideas, like time squirrel,
I'm squirrels.
yeah.
and resulting in me having a urine sock.
Did you smell your sock after you stepped in it?
I didn't. I was too scared to because I was worried that it would be something not water.
We could think larger. We could think raccoon.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. Okay, so time squirrel, time road, time vermin,
I'm
time
vermin.
time vermin is great because I still get the experience of being haunted. Like that's good.
Mhm.
But I don't have the financial burden or anxiety inducing situation where I need to explain this to my landlord.
Well, I mean, if there is really a hole in
Okay,
the
yes. I
house.
haven't found a hole. It might be like a ghost hole.
Oh, okay, then that's fine.
Yeah, ghost hole. It's just a hole in time and space, not in the house.
I don't know. This is opened up a new set of theories for me to apply to, and I'm gonna have to do some research on quantum physics and the nature of the fabric of space-time.
Yeah.
And what about ghost squirrels?
Oh, I definitely 100% have an ecological survey of Rodentia in Central California to peruse through. I have the materials all set to go. I'm ready. Honestly, I didn't come to this to guest here expecting really like tangible, like truly tangible steps towards alleviating my situation with the knocking and the puddle and the
Yeah,
breeze.
That's
we
what we're
do
here for.
real work here. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is a very serious podcast.
it really is. We were also going to talk about Nosferatu.
Oh yeah, yeah, I guess. Yeah. It was something that I recently happened to me watching the movie. I'm it's the movie is great. Everyone's been talking about it. I think my unique perspective more has to do with my experience in the theater. So I wanted to bring this to y'all and ask you what sort of your experience is, what your etiquette is regarding watching horror movies at the cinema. Do you do that? Is that something you prefer to do
Oh,
or not do?
yeah.
I
Yeah,
love the
me too.
cinema,
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Love
and
it.
I think I get where you're going with this. And I will say, when you step into Nicole Kidman AMC,
Yes.
you sign into a social construct. You're not the main star.
No.
You are not a comedian.
Mm-mm.
You are more than welcome to be in your body, to react, to scream, to laugh, to yell, but I don't need extra commentary.
Because heartbreak somehow feels good in a place like this.
I'm glad that you think that way because that means that there are some people with sense in this world. I was really excited going in to watch Nosferatu. And I had a good time watching the film. It's just I got a lot more extra that I wasn't asking for in that experience watching it at the theater in the cinema. Um, and I feel like a lot of people just need to just understand the baseline expectation when watching, especially horror movies at the cinema. In front of me, there was this very, very disgruntled man, this very disgruntled individual. He was roughly, I want to say like above 6 feet tall, and his build definitely made it inconvenient for me to watch the movie head on, which is fine. That's okay. People have different body types. I can adjust. But throughout the movie, this man was I say disgruntled. He was grumbling, he was fidgety, he took issue with a lot of things in the movie that just didn't make sense. And it was a big enough reaction for me to catch and take me out of certain situations. And I was like, what happened on screen that garnered this visceral reaction from this man? It wasn't until the very end of the movie, as soon as credits start rolling, like as the credits start rolling, he very angrily pushes himself out of his chair, grumbles, I can't like something along the lines of um can't take this. This is not worth my time. This woke shit. You know, this man had so much issue with the themes of this movie, like as if this movie was meant to, I don't know, be like combat social consciousness. Just super super angry of an individual, and just really took me out of the film. That's one thing I can deal with. Is one thing. The second thing was directly behind me. This guy he's maybe in his like mid 40s, brings in his family, which consists of three young girls. One oldest might be 15, probably closer to 12, 13, and the youngest being somewhere around like 6 or 7,
Oh my
right?
God.
Thank you. Thank you. Knowing that Nosferatu rated R, right? Rated,
Mhm.
definitely not someplace to bring your children. Uh, but he really stuck through it. I'm going to talk about parts of the movie, right? So there's a part in the movie where the main character and her husband, played by Nicholas Hoult, I feel so bad I forgot the actress's name.
Lily Rose Depp.
There we
Lily.
go. Lily
Okay.
Rose Depp. Yes.
So there is a point in the movie where Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult, their characters, engage in very sudden adult activities, right?
Mhm.
Definitely not something for a 6 or 7 year old to bear witness to. And it wasn't the presumably father of these like young girls to warn them to avert their gaze. It was the 13-year-old to whisper very loudly, close your eyes and look away, during that scene. And it just took me out of everything because of the sheer irresponsibility of this parent bringing children into this film. I don't know. It just, for me, that was the first time I felt like, am I the prude? Am I the
No,
person
no.
who just, am I is this might be the most conservative take I've ever had in my entire life. Don't take your children to go see Nosferatu.
No, you're totally in the right here. And I don't think that this is a conservative take. I think it's a very it's what's the opposite of unhinged? Reasonable. It's a
Reasonable.
reasonable
Yeah.
take.
Very, very firmly hinged. So yeah, put me in the row in front of me, this man who just at every single thing that could be possibly construed as woke, just reacting very viscerally, very physically, very audibly. And then in the back behind me, just like all of this happening, worried for the innocence of these children.
again, I'm going to present to you two theories.
Time squirrels.
I'm squirrels.
Time squirrels.
The first theory that I have is that you went into a movie theater where everyone there is Robert Eggers' arch nemesis. And they were like, we're going to ruin this movie for everyone
For
here because we
everyone.
hate Robert Eggers. And we're going to go here and we're going to make it the worst viewing experience for
For
everyone,
all four other people in the theater.
all four other people, so that those four people will bomb, like review bomb the movie.
That is a level of hate against Robert Eggers that or just anyone in general, that I don't
Yeah.
think I have.
Also, very scary that y'all are clustered together in an empty theater, just in
Yeah,
general.
it's one of those where you like pick your seats and everything beforehand, and so everyone just kind of gravitated towards the middle because they know that like that's the best viewing experience or listening and viewing experience, provided you don't have all these other distractions happening.
I guess you could have moved if.
I could have moved. I could have moved, but then I would be contributing to whatever shenanigans, like etiquette, horror, cinema watching etiquette, faux pas. I'd be contributing more to that, getting up in the middle of a really intense scene, watching Willem Dafoe be Willem Dafoe.
Well, this leads to my second theory, which
Okay.
is that all of those people were plants to make sure that you had a bad viewing experience, specifically you. Because in this scenario, it has something to do with the time squirrels again, where there's a ghost in your house, and that ghost is just letting loose the squirrels. And it's not just squirrels, it's also humans at the
It's
movie
also these
theater.
were ghosts. These were ghosts.
These were ghosts, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because have you seen them again after this experience?
Obviously not.
Exactly.
Obviously not.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Oh
They're
man.
ghosts.
They're
Okay.
ghosts.
I'm flattered, and this is you've turned this around for me.
A once in a lifetime Nosferatu horror experience.
I
Yeah.
don't I didn't get this sort of disrespect when watching Sonic 3. I just want to throw that out there. I feel like the crowd for Sonic 3 was more reined in than the crowd for Nosferatu.
It does suck that it wasn't like this movie is just atmosphere in a movie, right? Like you're in this place, and I am a happy-go-lucky guy, but really my biggest pet peeve is when people do not sign this social contract where everybody's paying. If it was a free theater and it
Mm-hmm.
was just like, it's party time, if this is Reputation tour, you're
Yeah.
watching Beyonce in the theater, yell,
Oh.
scream, grunt. But everybody paid and you go and I don't understand because I feel like if you do that in a movie theater, you're the one that's like talking loud at a library. You're the
Mm.
one that's like complaining that like you have 43 pieces of ice instead of 44. Like it's that type of energy that just like gets under my skin. And
Yeah.
I'm that prude. I'm like, "Hey, we're in a movie." And then people get mad at me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Don't get mad at me, get mad at yourself." And we're having this full-blown conversation
Yeah.
while sexy tall Nosferatu is on the screen with this
Yeah.
mustache. I'm like, I want to look at the mustache. I don't want to look at your face.
Yeah.
The person who paid to go see this movie, who's making all the grunts and whatever, who's like displeased with the movie,
Hmm.
literally paid money to go see it in theaters.
Yeah.
So, like,
This this has been around for what, over 100 years? Like this story it's not a brand new
right.
concept.
No.
Yeah.
So like how can you be like, "Oh, this is so woke"? What does that
Yeah.
mean?
No, I swear to God, I honestly think it's a Robert Eggers hater.
The Robert Eggers hater just
Yeah.
it ruined the experience for me. But still, like I think everyone that I've talked to so far about it, like beautiful movie, really pleasure to just look at and be exposed to. But yeah, I think the movie was still good. It was good enough that I still thought it was good even after this experience.
The atmosphere in Nosferatu. Did Robert Eggers do The Witch? Yes.
Yes.
I personally like the pacing on The Witch better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a controversial take. Even though The Witch was a slow burn and sometimes their accents got to me a little bit because I was like, "What are you saying?" I thought the build to intensity was more, but I don't like when you think about Nosferatu, it's almost like a dark gothic romance
Yeah,
versus The Witch, which is like
that's
more steeped in
exactly
horror.
what it was. Like with Nosferatu, the whole conceit of it is you find out that this Count Orlok is just a horrible,
Hot.
literal
Oh,
horrible
Oh.
monster, but also, you know, we love that sometimes. Um, but we have to know that in the middle. Whereas with the witch, I feel like that it's all building up to one point, right? There's
mhm.
more peaks and valleys when it comes to the action and hot and heaviness of Nosferatu, whereas with the witch, it's all rise.
What if the guy, okay, another, sorry, I'm like
More theories.
harping on this guy. I'm harping on this guy who's sitting in front of you in the movie theater. What if he was actually saying this film is not woke enough? Because there was a little bit of anti-Romani sentiment during that one
Mm.
camp scene. I mean, I'm not making excuses for him, but that one scene, you
Eh,
know,
yeah. I see. I see. Like that was the thing that they had took issue with, and we're just finding other little bits to be mad about.
he was
Yeah.
just like, this is not woke enough for me. Yeah,
And what's your excuse for the bad parenting behind
they're just bad parents.
Just just bad
Yeah,
just
parent. Yeah.
parents?
yeah, bad parent.
Bad parent. And on that note, let's take a break.
Hey listener, this is Banana in the Future. Just wanted to give you a heads up that there will be spoilers for the movies that we're going to be talking about today. So, if you don't want to listen to any spoilers, then I would suggest that you watch the movie first and then come back and listen to the episode. All right, back to the show. All right, let's get into the movie that we're here to talk about. One Missed Call.
One Missed Call is a 2003 Japanese movie written by Maneko Diarra and directed by the infamous Takashi Miike.
Mhm.
Maiki? Maiki?
Mike.
Miike.
Miike.
Mike.
Who I didn't realize when I was doing research also did Ichi the Killer, which is
Mhm.
a wild movie. But we're not here to talk about that. When I was watching this, this was my first time watching through the Japanese version. I remember seeing the 2008 American remake, and because of this podcast specifically, I was kind of like layering through like how much influence J horror has had on in America, but also just kind of like this path that we've taken so far, talking about The Ring and Ju-on, The Grudge, and now we're um in this new setting where flip phones are the new curse, which is interesting because it kind of follows The Ring way closer than it does The Grudge. There is going to be this idea of ghosts that kill you and you can pass along this curse, but that, I guess, technophobia, this time instead of a VHS player, now we've stepped up to cell phones. Scary.
It was a very interesting movie, the Japanese version specifically. I like the Japanese version more than the English version. So I'll start off with that.
Mhm.
However, I still felt like the Japanese version felt a little bit disjointed. It felt like it was two different, from my perspective, it felt like it was two different movies that were happening. And I
Oh,
know
interesting.
that Takashi Miike, master of spatter horror specifically, loves the gore, loves the, you know, the violence, loves Yakuza films. And I think maybe he had a little bit of difficulty with his paranormal film. Like I think anything that has like paranormal stuff, he might have had a little bit of difficulty with. And I wonder if he was asked to make this because of the success that The Ring had. But what are your all thoughts?
This is one of the movies that followed this trend of like Ringu and Ju-on, um, of this curse that follows you and all that stuff with the whole technophobia thing. I think you're right to call out that Takashi Miike had uh, maybe not, I don't know if struggled is the right word for this, but it just wasn't his wheelhouse. You know, like everything that he was known for prior had more to do with more tangible displays of of unsettling. So gore, you mentioned splatter horror, and when it came to Ringu and Juon, and now with One Missed Call, the J horror genre leaned more into atmosphere, creepy atmosphere, and more esoteric, more esoteric versions of discomfort. So I think this was the film where I looking at the rest of his work, I think this is the film where he tried to say something more social when it came to the message of the movie, than he was used to. I don't know if that's particularly what his mind, but from watching the film, that's what it felt like, because the whole technophobia portion of it, I think, with this was back in 2003. This is before any smartphone was ever like released. We were starting to attach the internet, which at this point maybe like less than a decade old for consumers, was starting to become available in your hand on your phone. How people started to communicate via text, emails. We see in the movie, this curse can also spread through a photo. And so sending digital photographs was a very new, novel idea back in 2003. This whole idea of we are now connected, we are now more available to each other. What does that mean, like societally, like speaking from society? And I think Takashi Miike uh, tried to lean more into that, and you can see with the cuts to just daily life in society contrasted with this horrifying build up with the television station scene. You know, like all these people are here to witness a spectacle and they don't care about what's going on. That is where the true horror lies. At least that's what I was able to pull from as a major theme of this movie. Like the fear that people are watching but not doing anything, that you are truly alone in this interconnected planet that we're stepping into in 2003. So, and I looking back, I think you know how nowadays we have like superhero movie fatigue. I think one miss like Chakishin Ari. That's the Japanese name for One Missed Call. Chakishin Ari uh, was kind of at the tail end of this the trendy Japanese horror trope movie. It wasn't like a cinematic universe or anything, but it kind of fell on people were tired of this curse that follows you through some means, whether it's VHS or whether it's cell phone, or um, they mention it in the movie through abuse, like abuse begets abuse, um, and spreading a curse in that sense. I think the movie wasn't as well received in Japanese audiences because of this fatigue. And so I think it just came at the wrong time for Takashi Miike to come onto the project and experiment in the way that he did with this.
That's interesting too, saying that it's closer to the tail end of this idea, because I do feel like it almost came full circle watching this movie after watching The Ring and Ju-on, in the fact that this one felt the most quote unquote westernized, with like the scares, the pull away from like this slow burn, this dread, this looking into dark corners, and it was way more in your face, like what you would expect watching an American horror.
Again, I think that's because Takashi Miike, that's sort of his style, not
Mhm.
so much the Japanese, again, atmospheric horror.
The
Yeah.
scene that really did stick with me, that I think Takashi did really good, was the animated corpse. And like
Mm,
Oh, that was fun.
that was a fun
yeah.
scene, and like I
Yeah.
don't know what type of effects they were utilizing, but like you could see like the skin peeling off, and it was just
Mhm.
like I was like, oh, this is a really interesting moment, because this scene, and of course the exorcism scene, were almost felt out of place, in the fact with like the effects that were happening, and like the explosions and people getting blown everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, it was it was those moments that I remember from the movie versus like the darker slow burn and like
Yeah.
the anxiety that's caused when I was watching Ring and Ju-on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The atmospheric slow burn building of tension was
Mhm.
definitely present, but not what you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that you brought up the corpse, like the mom corpse, because the one part where the skin is falling off, it reminded me a lot of in the ring in the well when
Mhm.
the lead finds the corpse of the girl of Sadako. It was
Yeah.
Sadako, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadako, yeah.
Sadako. And she finds the corpse, and the corpse is like the skin is like also falling off in a similar sort of fashion. And it felt like a really cool callback. Uh, I wanted to bring up something that was, as we were talking about this, that's like a
Yeah.
kind of a funny fact, which was in the English version of the movie, when they were doing marketing for it, one of the contests that they had, the prize was an iPhone. And I thought that was like
Yeah.
really funny that we're talking about like, this is pre-iPhone. This is like,
Yeah.
it's like the brand new thing and technology is wild.
Yeah.
So
I mean the remake came out in 2008, so we had the iPhone for like a year, right? At that point. So it makes sense. That's something I want to also point out about the remake. I don't know if we want to move on to talk about the remake
Yeah,
or
let's talk about them
blend
both.
blend the two.
Mhm.
The
yeah.
really funny thing about the remake though is it's very obvious that that the thing was sponsored by Boost Mobile.
Yes, all the Boost Mobile ads. That was the funniest. The Boost Mobile guy, like there was that
It took
guy.
me out. It's like I died just thinking like, man, there's no other phone carrier in this universe.
Hmm.
I do want to point out, so like you said, this was released in 2008, directed by Eric Villette, and also written by a now conservative podcaster from the Daily Wire. So I'm not even going to mention
Oh,
his name.
interesting.
Weird.
Bonkers.
But the budget was, I always like to mention the budget because you usually
Yes.
Hollywood has these out of the wild budgets. So
Yeah, really inflated. Yeah.
yeah, compared to the 1.7 million for the original, the remake had $20 million.
Oh my goodness. And that's what they came up with?
And that's what they
That's what
came
they
up
came up
with.
God,
with?
I hated. So I loved and hated the ghosts. I'm
I
just gonna
loved and
say
hated the ghosts too.
I had such a complicated thing with those
The
ghosts.
which goes? There were two.
It was so okay. So I loved and hated both ghosts
Okay.
because I was so the way that the character design looked,
Yeah.
like it reminded me of an artist that got really popular around the same time. It was like early 2000s. His name is Scott Radke,
Okay.
and his sculptures kind of look like the faces of these ghosts. So I was wondering if it was like a
Oh.
reference to it. I was like, oh, they kind of look similar. And so that's why I really liked it. But then I really hated it because like they were so overused. It was like they were all over the
Mm,
place. Like these ghosts are just like everywhere. Like they're not even spooky anymore. It feels like
yeah.
it felt more like Constantine, like watching
Yes.
Constantine and you're just like, "Oh, we're in this world and we're used to these ghosts,"
Yeah.
rather than
So
the
you're
mystery.
talking about the dead, well, like the dead quote unquote dead people that the victims would see before their death, right?
Yes, yes.
Their vision would be like they'd look at someone on a bus and it would be like this creepy dude with a really elongated mouth and really leathery skin,
Yes.
right? Okay, cool. I was wondering who was in charge of that because they were all consistent. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think they really reduced that, like they displayed it so often that you just kind of got desensitized to it and it kind of lost its meaning. It just like it just went by the wayside. Like you could ignore it because the rest of the movie was happening at you. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
Another
I'd like to contrast with Takashi Miike, the very beginning scene. This is the thing that stuck with me the most. Was in the very beginning scene, our main character, she's sitting there listening to this ghost story, and it cuts to her, and there's a white, like a really pale white hand draped over her shoulder that you don't notice
Yes.
until the hand pulls back, and then they don't address it ever. and like that stuck with me the whole movie because I'm like, when's that coming back? When's that? What was that? What was that? You know? So
That was so
I think
good.
it
That one
was
scene was
such
so
a
good.
it's such a I think it was very interesting to contrast what gets displayed versus not displayed among the both versions of the movie.
We did see a hand come out of a pond, which was one of the funniest
Oh my God,
scenes.
the cat.
The cat. What
Cat.
did the cat? Did the cat listen to the phone call too?
The house, right? Can we talk about the house? The house was obviously Japanese, but the character was living in, I'm assuming, Boston. Uh,
Yeah, a koi pond. That's
a
just
koi
like
Yeah,
pond,
in the
very
middle of
Japanese
Boston.
style. It just in like, do you live at botanical gardens with your cat? Like what? Anyway,
I feel so bad for that cat. I felt really bad.
the
I
cat
wasn't
doesn't
doing
even use a
anything.
cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in our previous episodes, we've talked about ghost rules. In every single movie that we've talked about, there have been rules in which, these ghosts, how these ghosts work, how these curses work, like what they can do, what they can't do. Something I want to get everyone's thoughts on, and I
Mhm.
have thoughts on this too, is what do you think the rules were for both movies in terms of like how the curse was passed, what can the ghosts do? Um, what can the living do to prevent this curse from getting passed on? What are
Okay.
some thoughts?
The way I understand it, in both movies, the victims would get a call. They would see that they got one missed call, and when they listen to the voicemail, it plays back the last moments before they are killed. In the Japanese version, the call came from yourself, from your own number, and in the American version, the call came from the person that died, but from the future. Like their number called you from the
Mm.
future and played back. And then you couldn't do anything because like you could take out the battery of the phone, you can destroy the phone, but in both versions, the phone comes back, or you get a call on someone else's phone that's meant for you, or the picture or video gets sent to you specifically on that phone. That's the baseline manifestation of the rules, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to determine how Mimiko in the Japanese version and how Ellie in the American version would choose their next victim.
Yes.
Yes. So I thought it was specifically in the American version when you see the death with the person getting hit by the train, and there's like this hand that's dialing on the phone,
Mhm.
that's dialing a number.
Yes.
So I guess that was to say that maybe because maybe the ghost can possess. Maybe.
Oh.
Mhm.
After the death, because you don't really see possession. You see people kind of being led places, but you don't see this um this very hateful ghost that is possessing someone to kill someone
Yeah.
until the very end. But it also, I think the idea is that like this idea of like what it was it called, like the six whatever, like
The degrees of
Degrees.
removal.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So the idea that if you're in someone's phone log or they know your phone number, you would randomly get called. But then I'm just like, in all of the situations, you would have to pick up and hear it,
Yeah.
which is like, obviously, this is a movie and they have to move the plot along. But what happens if you don't have friends or you were too poor to have a cell phone? You're kind of
Yeah.
safe from this.
In each version, it was always someone that like they had some contact or relationship with. Um, we saw a scene in both movies, and I think they both played it off kind of differently in each one, but where people who knew that person got wind of this curse death thing happening and asked to get or demanded in one of those cases that they delete their number off of that
Yes.
person's phone. I think it honestly was like the closer you are emotionally tied to someone, the more likelihood you are to get that phone call. I think they mention it in the Japanese version. I understand some Japanese, but I still need subtitles for some things. But I think there was a mistranslation in one of the subtitles, or it was a little bit awkward of a translation or localization. But it was my understanding that the next person had some form of abuse happen to them earlier in their life, which is I went through the entire movie wondering, oh, what abuse did that person go through? What kind of, so because our main character was definitely a victim of parental abuse.
So this makes a lot more sense, like
Mm,
what you just explained, because the biggest problem that I had with both movies was that there seemed to be a disconnect between the technophobia and how it relates to abuse. You know, they talk a lot about abuse. There's, you know, a lot of these characters go through abuse, and we find out that at the end of the movie that it was actually a child who was dialing the phone, and you know there was some sort of abuse happening, but I felt like it didn't really make me understand how it paralleled with technophobia, and so there was a little bit of a disconnect for me there. um, However, I really enjoy, and this is just like me really harping on the technophobia side of things. I really
mhm.
enjoy the technophobia side of things. Like I thought that that theme was like very
Same,
strong.
same.
I feel like that was something that they could have stuck with, and that's why it felt like two different movies to me. Where it was just like, okay, we have the story about like these you know people who have been abused, and you know there's a lot of trauma there that could come in a form of a curse. We've seen this, you know, play out in the past with other movies like The Ring or Ju-on. However, here it felt a little bit disconnected, and I think that if they had stuck a little bit more with the technophobia stuff, you know, hung in there with the live show segment, especially,
Hmm.
because I think that the live show segment was really interesting. It reminded me of, do you all remember the show that had that one guy in it, Nasubi, who was, so they put this guy, this poor guy, in an apartment for, I think it was like a year, and he couldn't eat. He
Yes.
wasn't like, yeah, he wasn't like allowed to like get food or
Hmm.
anything for himself. He had to like do coupon clipping in order to
Yes.
get food. And so like this was like actual real life, and people were like watching him suffer, and he was like naked for the entire thing,
Yeah.
until he could like clip some coupons to get like underwear or like get some clothes on. And that really reminded me of like, you know, the live show segment in One Missed Call, because it was like, okay, like how far are we willing to go to exploit these people? These are just like regular people suffering a lot, and we want to watch them suffer. And so it reminded me of that time period where like, you know, a lot of the stuff was just happening. Like we would like reality television, right? That was just
Yeah.
like, we don't care about these people. We just want to watch them, you know, get unhinged as a result of us pushing them too far.
There's it's a spectacle.
Yeah.
It's more visceral and discomforting in the Japanese version. The how the producer seemed
Yeah.
so gung-ho about getting one of the victims, Natsumi, to be on the show, to make sure that cameras were rolling, don't cut. And
Yes.
it was added to that, like that feeling of discomfort was added to because there was more people involved in the Japanese version for this production. You have people in the studio, you have people in the back room, and then it cut like Takashi Miike did this uh, interstitial cutting between what's happening in the studio to just a crowded Japanese a city, like people walking on the street on their phones, looking at televisions and all that stuff, really
Yeah.
adding to that whole this person's suffering is a spectacle.
Mhm.
And I agree with you that that is terrifying in and of itself. I would have loved to have explored, leaned into that more. It's important to talk about abuse and all that stuff, but we could have had a movie that didn't need to split its attention in two different directions. It half-assed two things. It could have whole-assed one thing, you know?
Yeah, I would have liked to see something that was closer to Late Night with the Devil. I don't know if you all seen it, but
I
like
I really
something
do.
like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, something like that would have been really cool. Obviously, like it doesn't have to all be live, but
yeah.
something that was more focused would have been cool.
Wasn't the twist though that it was an older sibling
Yeah.
abusing?
Yeah.
I think y'all have made very good points throughout like this convoluted idea because they are pulling from things like The Ring or Ju-on, where Ju-on is literally about the curse of anger that
Hmm.
possesses people and it gets passed on throughout. Whereas this one, I do feel like this is the idea of that like you want to be connected, you want to be able to find out like we have our computers in our pockets now.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that they try to straddle the line, I think, of tropes of these previous movies. Like they try to play with sounds a little bit
Hmm.
because
Mhm.
The Ring and like you get this phone call, but it was a landline instead of now it's a creepy ringtone.
Yeah.
And there's these artifacts like the candy, the jawbreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
It's
that
not even
was
a
a little
jawbreaker, it's a hard candy. Let's just throw it out. I want to
that's
throw that
like
out
it was
there.
like a marble.
Yeah.
You
It
could
was
break
so
your teeth
weird.
on that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, I get that. Okay, it gives like that twist of like, oh, my older sister would abuse me, but give me candy so that I would be quiet. But there was no through line, like you were saying earlier, Cap, of like these people probably maybe have been abused, and that's why they're part of this line. But why, I guess, why are they dying because of it? Why is
Mhm.
Mimikyo or Ellie killing these people? There's no like, I guess, motive, and there's
The
no kind of like,
they address I don't think they address this in the American version. In the Japanese version, these are college kids. The main character is a psychology student, and there's a lecture where they're talking about how this idea that abuse begets abuse. But the professor's main point in that conversation was sometimes people just suck and are the progenitor of that abuse. And so we go through this movie assuming that the mom, Marie, is the person doing this, you know. However, the big twist is this kid had a loving mom and still was shitty and abusive to her younger sister, and in some ways her mom, because the whole idea was she would be injured. She has asthma, and she would injure her sister. She would injure herself to make it seem like her mom was a bad mom, even though her mom was just taking them to the hospital as a mom would, you know. Um, and so this you're talking about this missing, I want to like missing through line, and I just think if they had gone either again in one direction or the other, leaned harder into the technophobia, or if they leaned harder into this exploration of where abuse comes from and how abuse perpetuates more abuse, we could have had a stronger through line, stronger story. But instead, we kind of diverged and it felt a little disjointed.
What do you think would have been a good metaphor for a topic like that, right? Like abuse begets abuse. Like what would be something that
Hmm.
would make sense?
I think it would have made sense if the person received the call, they get scared or whatever, and then uh um they get taken over by Mimiko or Ellie in the American version. Like we see this happen in the Japanese version. The person gets possessed and then they perpetuate that violence. I think it would have made so much stronger of a message that abuse perpetuates even more abuse if we saw the victim receive the call, perpetuate violence on someone, die, and then call someone else.
Oh,
because
yeah.
because what we got here is the victim perishes. It's tragic, but we don't see this whole idea of this curse being passed on by any action of their own.
right.
I had two ideas when you asked that. The first one, I think we've talked about it before, but if it was like one of those email chains, email 10 people
Yeah.
Yeah.
or you'll die, but
Yeah.
it's like almost like either spreading misinformation or like online bullying or like this perpetuating that idea of like if you don't do something mean to someone, something bad's going to happen to you. So
Mm-hmm.
then you are looking out for yourself and then talks about selfishness and all this. The second one would be this idea of revenge, avenging
Oh,
yourself, rising above to an extreme where if the person, the victim that gets this phone call does get possessed, but then their soul is uh targeting the person that abused them. And then you kind of see this cyclical cycle of like, okay, well, this person got abused by this person because this person may have been abused by this person. And then that may have been a stronger, more impactful way to see this chaining of abuse, even if it's not familial, even if it's a bully, or even if it's, I feel like there could be like that, sixth degree of separation where somehow your abuser
becomes the
has been
next victim.
abused.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like that idea where it's like either like could be a childhood bully, it could be a boss that yelled at you at work, or it could be, you unlocked something in what you were saying, that I think is a good representation of this idea. Have y'all seen Smile?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think Smile, the smile, the premise in Smile, phenomenal movie, I think. Go back and watch it. And I think Smile did what these two movies tried to do, minus the technophobia. It really, really, I think, leaned into this whole perpetuation of violence, perpetuation of trauma. That idea, and did it better because they didn't have to lean into, or they didn't feel like they needed to lean into this new budding fear of technophobia.
Have you seen Smile too?
I want to so bad.
Okay.
Oh,
I
I love
I
Oh,
it.
okay.
I I wanted to see it so bad, but I didn't want to go see it in theaters. Nosferatu, I broke that rule for Nosferatu and got got bitten in the ass.
I maybe we can do a follow up. You can come on to another episode after you watch Smile 2
I would
because it's
love to.
interesting what you just said there. But it was just as good as the first one, if not, if I might have liked it better.
I wanted to ask. I don't know if this is coming up in y'all's notes, but I wanted to ask how y'all felt about the two endings.
Would you consider it as a happy ending? Because I didn't feel like it was a happy ending.
Well, the curse lives on in both, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lives on,
a
quote
little
unquote.
bit.
kind
Yeah.
of.
So the remake, the 2008 version, follows the set pieces of the Japanese version pretty well.
Yeah.
There's some differences, there's some minor differences, and the execution is a little awkward in the remake. But they follow the up to the end where our main character is getting attacked by this ghost, and
Yeah.
the detective that the main characters meet comes to
Oh.
save the day, but in the American version the detective dies, gets gets eviscerated, and it's up to the ghost of the mom to protect our main character. This is in the English version. In the and the movie ends there with the spirit of the little girl, the abusive little girl, going into the phone and making another call, and it's disheartening and despairing because the curse is continuing, did nothing to stop it. In the Japanese version, it follows that pretty much almost to a T, but the little girl, there's no mom to save the main character. The Mimiko, the ghost of the little girl, possesses the the our main character, who then uses her body to kill the detective when he comes in to save or injure the detective. We cut to a scene where the detective is dreaming about saving Mimiko, or like giving her inhaler and saving her from a very horrific, terrifying death. And then he wakes up in the hospital, and our main character presumably is still possessed by Mimiko, and this whole cycle of abuse continues. Now she has a new plaything to abuse, and she is happy about it. And I think the detective person, it's weird because he also smiles and like laughs along, and I think it's just because of the irony of it. I don't know. It's Takashi Miike
Oh,
being artsy fartsy.
I remember now. I had a note about Munchausen's by proxy.
Okay.
Uh, I thought it was ironic that the Japanese version ended with him smiling because of the all the red herrings about Munchausen's by proxy, and then
Hmm.
suddenly it's like, oh, actually, it's actually happening at the end to the detective.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. It was interesting. Maybe not fun. Fun's probably not the right word for it, but it was very interesting. I think I preferred that version more because it didn't feel like a red herring and it didn't feel like a throwaway thought
Mm-hmm.
versus the English version where it was like, oh, it was a red herring this entire time. Oh well, this curse is perpetuating, and it's like I don't know, it felt kind of like an afterthought a little bit.
$20 million dollars, and that's what you came up with for the ending. $20 million dollars, and you
Yeah.
just kind of end it there. Like,
The
w-
peephole thing though, the peephole
The peephole thing was
thing,
good.
okay, the
that
people,
was
yes.
that
That
was
was good.
really funny to me.
Well, the lead up because she looks through and you think, oh, don't do it, but then
Don't
it's
do
just
it.
Right.
him,
Yeah.
and then he
Yeah.
does it, and then
Yeah,
And
and
then
then
he
he gets
dies.
like,
Yeah.
stabbed in
He
the
gets,
eye.
yeah, he gets
Yeah.
a pencil in the eye.
Yeah.
but then the whole house blows up. So I'm just like, why'd you kill him like
Why'd
that?
you
Like
kill him? Like, yeah.
Why don't you just blow up the house?
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, I thought because like in the original version, doesn't with the corpse, doesn't Yumi like almost bypass like, oh, I understand, like it's okay that you abused. Yumi was like saying like, oh, I understand why you. This was before the
The
Mimiko
reveal.
twist.
Yeah.
I like the ending of the other one better because now the mom can do some good in after she dies. So she's like
I
there to
see.
protect. So I don't know.
In the
I
so you're saying the the mom gets vindicated um before the twist in the Japanese version. Yumi forgives her and is like, I understand why you did this. You wanted to be a good mom. Sh- I'll be your daughter that you can take care of. That's fine. Whereas in the American version, the mom is vindicated when she's able to stop her daughter from harming the main character.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. It felt more full circle.
Like Yumi didn't have to forgive or like say I get it because you don't have to forgive or get the abuser. Like there's
Hmm.
no really forgiveness or anything like that.
Yeah.
So when I saw Yumi apologizing, I'm just like, why are you apologizing to someone that you think has abused someone else?
Yeah.
Whereas yeah, now at the end, even though it was very garish, I thought the final scene of the American version was very, I'm like, again, $20 million. What is going on here? Also, sorry, as an aside, do y'all remember that baby? The baby with the cell
Yes.
phone?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
the baby
Yes.
with the sofa.
That made me
What?
laugh so hard. I have a note on here too about it. I was just like the CGI
Also,
baby.
That was
Like,
as jarring as when the kid with cigarette. Like that was so
oh my
just
God. Yeah.
out of left field. It took me out. I was.
also, like, I don't know if it's because of the age that we live in now, which is
Mhm.
this might be spurring on a whole other conversation, but the CGI looked like AI to me.
Oh my God, it
Even like
Mm,
did.
the movie
Yeah.
poster, even like I feel like the practical effects like far away when they're doing these ghosts. I'm like, oh, that's kind of creepy. But then
yeah,
they do this like zoom in thing, like, oh, look how creepy it is. And then they
yeah,
start trying to CGI the face, and I'm just like, oh, that doesn't look right. But it just looks like bad AI now.
Can
yeah.
I be a little petty?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so Beth's family home.
Yes.
Mm,
Why is
what
the
is this?
paint peeling? Like, so you get flashbacks of
Yeah.
like her
Oh
house when
yeah.
she's
Where was she
like
living?
exactly. It's like, what is this? And why is it that she's like going upstairs? Like, okay, so the Japanese version, I felt like, okay, like got it, you have like a house that's sort of unkempt. But in the American version, it looks like she lives in
Her
like she's squatting. Like her
Yeah.
and her
her
family are squatting in his house.
her room was pristine, and then she walks out of her room and up the stairs, and it's like run down, decrepit. All the like, there's
Yeah.
water stains. And now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe okay, okay. It's funny. I get it.
Oh, is it a visual
And
metaphor?
it's a visual metaphor for her memories of the
Okay.
time. You know,
Okay.
because she
All
Oh.
because she leaves
right.
her room is her safe spot, so it makes
Yes.
sense that it's all
Yes.
nice and pristine and clean and everything. But then she goes upstairs and then looks
That's
for people at
reality.
her
Okay.
father, and it's like this is a shitty rundown. This is the worst memory of her life, and so the her
Right.
surroundings of her memory in her memory reflect that.
Okay, so well now I feel bad for being petty.
It took me. It's no. I'm with you. I'm so with. I was. I pointed it out when I was watching. I'm like, why? Where's she living? And it took me saying it out loud now to realize that was on purpose. You know,
Yeah.
that there's a reason for that. Um,
Okay. Well, when you say that, when you put it like that, that's kind of cool, actually.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
but
But
it
the
took me
CGI
out. It really
baby,
did.
yeah. CGI ghosts, not a fan.
Not a fan at all. But did you see Margaret Cho?
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Margaret Cho.
Oh my
Margaret Cho jump
God.
scare. I was like, oh my gosh.
Margaret Cho. I saw her name in the so Margaret Cho is in the English version, and I saw her name in like the opening scroll of like names, and I was like, what? Where is Margaret Cho gonna be? And then she's a cop.
She's a
She
Oh,
is
cop.
she is the skeptical cop.
true horror. That's the true horror
True
of this entire
horror.
thing.
Margaret Cho would never IRL.
She wanted to cosplay just a little bit. She wanted to see what it was like, get a taste.
Last question about this phone. If you never answer, do you think the ghost would be smart enough to call somebody else?
No, Ghost is a kid. Ghost is a child.
Yeah. The ghost
Because the
is
whole time,
literally.
though, like there's been moments where people are like, oh, that's not my ringtone. It's weird that Shelly's calling, and then they answer it anyways. And it's just like, what if you just didn't answer it? Like, do you think that would
Danny,
Oh,
what you're suggesting is someone gets a call, not their
Hmm.
ringtone, they throw their phone away. Like,
well, okay.
Yeah, especially if
So,
it sounds that creepy.
so like in the American version, that cop in the evidence room answers the phone, and the call
Yeah.
isn't for him. The call is for Beth.
Beth.
Yeah.
That was a cool twist though, because I was like, oh, Beth is dying, but then
Oh yeah.
the recording was her screaming because the detective died.
Yes.
I was
yeah.
like, that's cool.
So maybe, I mean, it was actually for the detective. So
This throws all the rules out the window.
the rules don't matter in this movie. Neither
That's
movie.
they don't.
Do you think that that detective or the cop died from listening someone else's death message?
Nothing to do with any of this. And he's just like, bleh. I mean, he's like the cat.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
just like the cat. He just gets grabbed.
yeah, we've seen collateral damage in the American version. So
Yeah.
I think 100% that cop ate it
Yeah.
as a result
Damn.
of answering someone else's phone call.
That's
Well,
what you get.
hey, Cap, let's take a break. Now it's part of the show where we are calling it Slaughterboxd, and we've tasked each other to find some funny, weird, and potentially unhinged reviews on Letterboxd, and we have to guess what star rating was left with that review. So feel free to play along at home, and Kappa, this is going to be your first Slaughterboxd. I hope you're
Ooh,
ready.
I am.
Yeah. So just as a reminder, you can go from half a star all the way up to 5 stars,
Okay.
including like you can do like 2.5 stars. And a lot of times those halves, they'll get you. They'll get you.
Mhm.
Even
Okay.
so, I don't want you to try to metagame it, but if you think it's a half, maybe go whole. And if you think it's a whole, maybe go half. All right, now you're thinking about it too much. Okay.
Now I'm thinking about it too much. Now I'm thinking, okay.
We didn't really talk too much about Nosferatu with dissecting it and disseminating the information. However, I wanted to do just a quick bonus round as a warm up. Evan AC left a review that said Nosferatu skips leg day.
That's a
What?
negative review.
That's it?
That's it.
That's a negative review.
I need to know if they're like what kind of punctuation, what kind of capitalization is it like proper?
Capital N Nosferatu, but no period at the end.
If I get it, this counts. If I don't, this was practice. I'm gonna say Evan rated this a 4.5.
Oh, that's a high review. I'm gonna give it 3.
3.
It was 3.5.
I
Ah,
3.5. That's okay.
okay.
You're
Banana
warming
was
up.
closer. This was
You're warming
practice. It
up.
was practice.
I've done this a few
Um,
times, so.
Oh, okay.
all right, this one I was surprised. This one was left by Z-Way, which I think of like Z-Way fame that has her own show and stuff. So hi
Ooh.
Z-Way, if you're listening, come onto the pod. She left a review that just says the dangers of a little crush. This is still for Nosferatu.
I feel like this is pretty positive.
This feels like poking fun and
Yeah.
in a good playful manner. So I'm gonna say 4.
4 stars. Okay, so if you're going 4, I'm gonna say 4.5.
Five. This was a 5-star review from
Five
Z-Way.
star. Oh wow.
Ooh.
Okay. I've been one off. I've been one off.
All right, last one for Nosferatu, and then we'll move into One Missed Call. So
Okay.
this one says, this one's unhinged. This one's from Jay. Jay says, if your wife's ex, in parentheses, 7 foot hung, own land, moves back into your town, you don't compete. Except that she was never yours. It was just your turn.
This is a positive review.
This person paid attention enough to break it down for us. You know how
7 foot hung owns land. That's all you need in a man.
I mean,
I'm gonna
I buy
go ahead.
that.
You go
Yeah.
first this time.
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I feel like I think the same way as this person. So I'm gonna say 4 stars.
I was gonna say 4.5.
This was a 3-star review.
Wait,
Three
what?
stars. What?
3-star.
What?
Maybe I don't want to put this on Jay, but maybe Jay is the other guy.
Jay watched this movie and saw himself in Nicholas Holt's shoes and was like,
Exactly.
"This
Yeah.
hurts me emotionally." So minus 2 stars.
Jay
Okay.
Minus
is
2 stars.
Nicholas Holt, actually.
Damn. Sorry, Jay, if you're listening to this.
Sorry, Nicholas Holt. All right. Are we ready for one missed call? We're going to start with the original version first. So,
Okay.
the first review that we have is from Aurora. My chances of survival are 0 because I don't answer my phone, nor do I listen to my voicemails.
Wait, Aurora says her chances are 0?
we
Because she,
Yeah.
we analyzed this and determined that your chances are really, really good.
yeah. Aurora, did you watch the movie?
I think Aurora tuned out during some of these important parts, and so the review is going to be low.
This is their first time watch. So I
First time
will
Oh,
watch.
first time.
Okay. 2.5.
1.5.
3.5.
3.5. Oh
Damn.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. I really need to get in, like, I need to stop thinking about this as 5 stars. I need to think about this out of 10 and then divide by 2. I think that's where I'm getting hung up.
Oh,
Yeah,
strategy. That's
yeah.
good.
The next one we have is from Nick. Just
Mhm.
text me next time, bruh.
Nick.
Nick.
Well, we saw what happened. You can get texted a picture, even if it's a 16-bit picture. You can icon
Yeah. But by the way, speaking of which, 2008, we first were starting to send videos over phone, right? So I don't know how these people saw what they saw in that video, with how shitty the quality was. I'm gonna go with 2.5 again. This person was clearly upset with the premise of the movie.
it. Yeah. Doesn't even want a voicemail. So just text me instead of calling me. Seems pointed. I'm gonna say 2.
3 stars.
What the
Three
heck?
stars. Oh my! I
Yeah.
even factored in the math and everything. Oh my god.
The next one we have is from Joe. Joe says, has anyone else noticed that the one missed call haunted ringtone sounds a little bit like the theme from Sleep Stalker?
Was when y'all heard the ringtone, was it nostalgic at all? Like, did y'all? Because I feel like I've heard this ringtone. Was this like a stock ringtone, or was this made for the movie?
I don't know. I mean, I try when I watched. I remember when I was younger watching the 2003 version for the first time. I think I looked up Japanese like nursery rhymes or something to see if it, but nothing came up. So I don't. It might have been made for the movie. I think this person is, watches a lot of horror movies. These two movies have generally been panned by critics and audiences alike. So kind of lower scores. I'm gonna adjust mine down to 3.5. Just yeah.
I'm gonna steal your 4. I'm gonna say 4.
Okay, okay.
It was 4 stars.
No!
4 stars and a heart and a first time watch.
And a heart.
Whoa,
Oh
and the
my
heart.
goodness. Okay, I am too in my head about this.
All right, the last one we have here is from A Circus. The rise of instant messaging has undoubtedly been a terrible blow to human spectral relations.
Dang. So they're saying texting has gotten in the way of getting haunted.
This is back
Yes.
to that premise of I would not have even answered because it's a voicemail, and
Mm.
not a text. Um, and that person rated it a solid 3.
I think they're sad that texting has gotten in the way.
Oh, they're feeling nostalgic about this.
2.5 is what my gut's saying.
3 stars.
I got one.
Whoa.
I got one.
You're on the board.
Ooh, first try.
All right. I got 4 for the remake version. This one's from Jay. Jay says,
The same Jay?
yes. No, different Jay.
Oh.
This is
Oh.
Jay with a candle emoji by their name.
Okay, I was gonna say
Not Nicholas Hoult.
we could psychoanalyze the two.
I mean, this one tells me a lot about this Jay Candlelight Jay. This one says, yes, it's dumb, but so am I.
This person loved this movie. This person loved like freaking.
they
I'm gonna say this was a
loved
5-star.
it.
I was gonna say this is a 5-star because people like trash TV and I mean I really enjoy being able to turn my brain off sometimes. I
gonna
usually rate
say-
those movies higher. I'm gonna say 5.
I'm gonna say 4 and a heart.
3, no heart.
3. What kind of psychopathic? No.
Obviously, Jay's standards are very high.
There's still time to get more points.
Okay.
This one's from Freezy Peach. Freezy Peach says, a priest literally tries to exercise a flip phone.
That is true.
That is a true statement.
That is a fact.
This
That-
is a fully grammatically correct sentence with a period at the end, if that's helpful, Kappa.
Oh.
This person, it's not, but I'd like to know.
I feel like
I'm
this
gonna say-
person's mad at me for a period at the end.
This person might have some religious trauma, which is why they got to be so formal. I'm with you there, my friend. What was it, Freezy Peach? I'm with
Freezy
you, Freezy.
Peach.
I'm with you, Freezy. I think Freezy and I've connected with this person across time and space. I would have given this movie a 3.5. I think Freezy also gave it a 3.5.
I'm gonna say a 2.
This was a 1-star review.
Holy
Peach.
peeps! Freezy, are you okay?
Freezy is not okay.
But
They
Margaret
did
Cho,
not like
Freezy.
this.
But Margaret Cho.
Margaret Cho is that single star. All right. This one is from Divisive Princess. Divisive Princess says, bitch, just put down the phone with 4 crying emojis, like crying laughter emojis.
Crying, laughing emojis? Okay. Oh, interesting.
Specifically the one with like smile and the tears coming
Smile,
out.
tears, yeah.
Okay.
Bitch, just put down the phone.
I don't know. There's no metric. These are unhinged. 4 stars.
4 stars. I'm gonna
4
say 5.
stars.
5 stars.
How many emojis? You said 3?
There's 4.
There's 4?
Yeah, one star for each emoji.
There's a heart too. I should say there's a heart.
There's a heart.
Wait, there's a
Okay.
heart as in like they liked it, or there's a heart at
They
the
liked
end?
it. They liked it.
5.
I am going with 4.
This is a 4.5-star review.
Oh, it's the half.
Oh,
It's the
the
half.
halves. They rated a 9 out of 10. Are you kidding me?
Divisive Princess dividing both of y'all's guesses. Wow. That's deep.
Wow.
Last chance. This is from Mumbles. That was left back in 2013. Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Mumbles.
okay.
Mumbles left a review and they said, I always knew asthmatics were evil.
Oh shit.
Jesus Christ.
A little bit of animals in here. Oh my gosh.
Jeez Louise, not hashtag not all asthmatics.
That is
Oh
so
man.
fun.
Okay. Let me get into the headspace of a person who's gonna be ableist like that.
Oh
You
my
watching this
God.
movie? Oh God. Oh man.
Dang.
Get so like breathe much.
Breathe
Um
much.
this person watched this movie and rated it a 3 out of 5 stars.
Oh, wait. Okay. I think it's going to be a higher rating just because it talks about how I'm gonna sound so terrible. Because the antagonist, which is a little girl, has asthma,
Yeah.
and this person's like, all of my all of my thoughts and feelings towards people who have asthma are now confirmed. This is 5 stars.
This was a 1.5-star review from Mumbles.
My goodness.
Whoa,
I think this
what?
person really does not like people with asthma.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Like this,
God.
Okay,
I
I
was gonna
see.
say this person is the little girl in the movie.
uh, I got one.
dang, you
I
got
got one.
one.
I got
Not
one.
bad.
I'm proud of that
Yeah.
one.
Good
I'm proud
Not
of that
job.
bad for
one.
your first game of Slaughterboxd.
Yes.
Well, Kappa, thank you so much for joining us. Tell the listeners where they can find you across the internet.
Yeah, so you can find me all over the place. I mean, mostly on Blue Sky at this point. I do somewhat post to Twitter. My handle on both sites is at the Kappa Chris. The thing that I'm most proud of recently that relates to the spooky horror of this podcast is Frequencies, a narrative actual play production on Patchwork Productions. You can find them on Spotify. They do the Atom List and all these other shows. But Frequencies is a standalone story that goes into it's basically my love letter, our love letter to people who creatives and creators everywhere who suffer from anxiety about their work, about the thing, the about their process. It is horror, it is comedy, it is something that I'm very proud of and really hope people who do this for a living, what we're doing now, creating and making content, can relate to, because there's something in there for everyone. And at the time of recording, 2 episodes are out right now. The second episode is my episode, my character, and I really, really poured my heart and soul into that performance. So please go check that out. Say nice things about it.
I'll definitely listen as long as you don't
Yeah.
curse me.
Danny, I already have.
Damn it.
Oh no, we have the ghost too now.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Spooky Asian Club. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe, and share this with someone you have in your phone's contact list.
And until next time, remember to pass on the curse. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh, bye.
This episode of Spooky Asian Club was edited by Marcus Mays. Music was provided by Artlist. Spooky Asian Club's logo was designed by Andy Crisp, and the sustained life of this podcast is made possible from our creepy little Patreon members and listeners like you.